Hello everybody, welcome back to another review and unboxing. Today I will be taking a look at these new 15th anniversary Up Funkos that were recently released. So in total there are 5 of them that were released. There are 4 that are general retail, they're available everywhere. And they sell for $12 or $12.99 at retailers like Amazon, Target, Walmart, and the Funko store. And those would be this regular Russell, Carl with the Aviator glasses, although he's just called Carl, Carl and young Ellie, and then over here we have Russell with Sash. He's exclusive to both the Funko store and to BoxLunch, although it doesn't have a sticker in there, but those are the only 2 places that are selling him. And he actually retails for a bit more. He costs $15. So I actually got the Russell with Sash from BoxLunch, although unfortunately for me it went up at the Funko store a little bit later for costing a little bit less. Plus at the Funko store, free shipping with minimum orders that I met. The other 4 I did get at the from the Funko store. I had them pre-ordered at Amazon, but the Funko store, first of all, got it in stock earlier. Secondly, cost 99 cents less each. And thirdly, I met the minimum for free shipping, so canceled the pre-order on Amazon and got it through the Funko store instead. So without further ado, let's get into this unboxing. I'm really looking forward to having these Funkos out of the box. They have made so many Up Funkos over the years, but it's such a good movie, and it's definitely nice to see these. These are definitely a bit unique. They haven't really done some of these before, even though they have gotten into that Carl and Ellie part of the movie a lot these past few years. But it's always been like 2-packs, and it's just the first time as a single releases and general retail, because the 2-packs are usually limited edition exclusive. So this is definitely nice to see for sure. So let's get into taking a look at the boxes first. So starting off with Russell here, the regular Russell. This is number 1479, the Disney line. Do you see the Up logo over here? The Up logo, it is on top of like a piece of a graphic supposed to mimic an old piece of paper. You have the Funko Pop logo, stock photo of Russell that cuts off at his waist. Text that reads Russell vinyl figure. A warning, choking hazard, small parts not suitable for children under 36 months. On the side here you have Pop, Russell, stock photo, Russell's name, 1479 again, and the numbers on all these, both here and over here, it is it's on the grape soda pin graphic. So although they removed the grape soda graphic, but it's clearly on that graphic numbers, which is nice. You have the Pixar logo on the top, in the top left corner, the Pop logo again, Funko logo in the bottom right corner, and Russell's stock photo again, but this time he's cut off at the eyes. The other side you have his text and number again, another stock photo where he's cut off at the eyes, and you get a look inside at his side. On the back here you have the Pop logo, Up logo, 1479 again, Russell stock photo, but this time cut off next to his nose. And then you have this collection of 4 Funkos, not including retail exclusives, so that will be Carl, Russell, young Carl and young Ellie again, and an advertisement for the Funko app. And at the bottom there's all this. And if you scan the barcodes, you could like add them to your collection, the Funko app, just to track what you have. And over here you do have these nice graphics with the maps and paper again. Pretty much all the boxes except for the Russell with Sash, they're going to follow the same format. So let me actually take a look at that box next. This one's number 1472, so actually 7 earlier in the Disney line than regular Russell. So interestingly, you have 1472 Russell, and then the others are 1478 through 1481. So I honestly don't know what's in between there, if they're doing more Up Funkos later in the year or something, or if it's just randomly separated somehow, which I know sometimes happens. This Russell is basically kind of the same package design as the others. So taking a look at the comparison in this one, you could see that Russell has no hats. His hair is his cheeks are dirty. But it's otherwise pretty similar package designs. Well, it's really the same package design, just different stock photos. The big difference here on the package is that the back of the Russell with Sash one, it doesn't list any of the other Up Funkos that are out right now. It just has a huge Up logo. But other than that, like, it's the same. Taking a look next at Carl with the Aviator goggles. Again, just called Carl, but they've done a number of Carls over the year. There's like regular Carl that they did way back in the day, and I think he's actually still available. There's the Doug Days Carl who was in the flower suit. There's like a whole bunch of the Married Life Montage ones out there. I am going to do comparisons, of course. I have most of the Up Funkos, not all of them. I believe the original Russel I actually don't have. I believe the only Russel Funko that I have besides these two now is the Doug Days one where he has the remote. So when I get to doing comparisons, I'll compare him to the Russel to a stock photo of the original one. Again, the back of the packages are identical to each other except for the stock photo that they use. And obviously they change out the names and numbers of each one. So Carl here is number 1478 again. It's pretty much all the same deal where this stock photo, it's cut off at the waist, and then the one up here, cut off at the eyes. And then this one over here is cut off past the nose. It's pretty much the same pattern on all of them. This is young Carl, number 1480. So these are part of the Disney Funko line. So the Disney Funko line is pretty much everything from Disney and Pixar properties, whether it's live action, Walt Disney Animation Studios, Pixar. It's all part of the same line. And it does not matter what movie they are from. Although Marvel, Star Wars, and other animation studios are not part of the Disney line. Here we have young Ellie, number 1481. So again, packages are all more or less the same except for Russel and Sash. Even that, it's only different in the back. So without further ado, let's open all these up and take a look at them. Let's start off with Russel and Sash, and that's the first one I grabbed. So Russel and Sash, he actually does not come with one of the plastic stands, but he does seem to be standing well on his own so far. Second up is young Carl. These Funkos are all pretty easy to open. You just open up the top of the box. There's not even tape or anything to take it out of the plastic that's in. Carl here, he also stands well on his own. No plastic stand or anything. Here's Aviator Carl. Again, there is no plastic stand. I wonder if any of these will have. Young Ellie. Yeah, it seems like none of these have a stand. I'm going to assume that Russel Sash doesn't have a stand, but regular Russel don't either. I remember when they first announced these, like people were kind of freaking out about Russel not having a face and the others having a face, so we'll see how that looks. Doesn't look bad. Standard Funko design, so if you don't like Funkos, then you're probably not going to like any of these, but personally I like Funkos, so well, I do like them having a face. It doesn't really bother me when they don't because I've been collecting for long enough to get it. So it's not having a mouth. It's not really a huge issue for me. I do really like the way Russel looks as a Funko. So starting off here, I'm going to start off taking a look at the two Russels. Starting off with the regular Russel here, you could see that he, as I was saying, he does not have a mouth. He has this nice hair up here. This textured, it goes to meet the baseball cap. The baseball cap is completely flat, so there's no seams or anything built into it. The only part that is not flat is this circle that is up in the top. There's a lot of nice details for his Wilderness Explorer badges, although all the badges, they are just circles that are solid colors, although each one is a different color with many repeated colors. So there's no details on what each one are. There is the opening there, as there should be in the movie. He is carrying one of his chocolate bars. Nice detailing. The hair is pretty smooth back here. There is some nice detailing with some grooves that were built in, but it's pretty smooth. I was viewing Edna Mode the other day. I know I said in that review I was recording this right after that, but that did not happen. This is actually the day after them recording it. But they'll be up around the same time now. And Edna's hair, it is much more, Edna's hair, it had a bit more texture than this, I will say. On the back, there's no detailing on the thing that holds the badges, just pure brown. And the brown is slightly darker, but very similar to the brown that it uses for Russell's shorts. You can see that his socks are down a little bit, so there's a little bit of skin right there, which does match his very fair skin up here. His head, as is usual for Funkos, is able to rotate 360 degrees. There's a nice detail on the shoes up at the front for his shoelaces. And you can feel the individual shoelaces, although you cannot move them. There is no articulation on his hands. His head is the only thing that's able to move, and you're not able to remove his baseball cap. And there is some nice detailing with this tie, with the tie that goes around the side. I'm not exactly sure what that's called. And there's also this tie right here. So this is definitely a nicely detailed Funko for sure. Moving on to Russell with Sash. So they basically actually have, so these two Russells right here, they basically have the exact same expression, more or less. However, this Russell's face is very dirty. Well, dirty in the sense that they decaled him to look dirty. He's not actually dirty, literally speaking. His hair is very textured in this with it going up. It's a nice hairstyle. You could really feel a lot of the texture on it. You move your hand across it, is a bit pointy, not like pointy as will hurt you, but pointy in the sense that you could really feel it, and there's a lot of depth to it. And this Russell, he doesn't. In this Russell, he doesn't have anything in his hands. His hands are next to each other. This is actually the Russell from the end of the movie when he's at the ceremony and Carl shows up as his relative to collect the badge with. And you can see that they have the grape soda badge on him this time. It is where the opening on this one is, and they actually did write in grape soda on it, so it's the only badge in him that isn't just a solid color, which is nice. His shoes are in a different, or his feet rather, they are in a different pose. So here in the one with the chocolate bar, the right foot is a little bit more forwards and angled out to the left, while the other one is a little bit further behind and kind of in a walking pose, because you could see that his foot is angled upwards on the back half, whereas this one, he is just standing and his feet are angled out equally from each other. So like a 45-degree angle right there between them, and they're perfectly lined up with each other on that angle. But except for the grape soda badge, it does seem like the details on the sash are identical. Although actually you can feel the individual badges, a lot of them, when you run your hands on them, because they are extruded out a little bit. The back of Russell is pretty much identical. Although what is interesting is that the pants colors on the two of them are actually a bit different. The one with the sash is a little bit darker for some reason. The socks are also molded a bit differently. So here on the regular Russell, the socks are bent upwards a little bit. They're not, and there is it's like the sock on the right foot rather. I mean, that one is bent upwards a little bit. There's more skin exposed on this leg than this leg up in the front. Whereas in this one, there's more skin visible back here. Whereas on the Russell sash, they are perfectly lined up and even. Which does make sense. Regular Russell, he's out in the wilderness walking around. This one, he's at a professional ceremony. So taking a look at this Russell compared to the Russell from Doug Days. So this right here is the Russell from Doug Days. And also, before we actually get into the Doug Days Russell, the hairstyles on these two new Russells are actually different from each other. They look kind of similar from a distance, but they actually are, they're molded differently. However, you can't transfer the hat though. That's not removable. But moving into this Doug Days Russell that came out a couple of years ago, I'll compare it to the regular Russell first, since they're both wearing hats. This one actually has a facial expression that's a little bit different. The eyebrows are angled slightly differently, although it's very similar. And actually, as I'm saying that, when I said these two had the same facial expression, I stand corrected in that because the Russel Sash actually has thicker eyebrows than regular Russel. So taking a look at the, and before I forget to mention, Russel with Sash, just like regular Russel, the head can move 360 degrees around, and that's the only point of articulation. So now getting back into Doug Day's Russel for like the third time. This is from the science episode, so that's the episode when Russel is, he puts Muntz's collars on the squirrel and the bird, and they get into a discussion with Doug about who should get the sandwich. It's a very fun episode. I definitely recommend checking it out. It's on Disney Plus. It came out a couple of years ago. Sadly, it is one of the last things that Ed Asner was actually ever in. He the first 5 episodes of Doug Days, they actually came out at like, I think it was 3 days after Asner passed away, which is very sad. And Jordan the Guy, and I apologize if I mispronounced the name, the actor who plays Russell in the movie, he reprised the role for Doug Days via archival recordings. So just like Paul Newman in Cars 3 or Don Rickles in Toy Story 4, they used archival recording from Up that wasn't used in the movie, and they used that for Doug Days. But anyway, getting back into the review here, the expressions are pretty similar. The eyebrows are actually identical. The only difference here is that on the Doug Days one, they're angled slightly more, but how the decals actually look are like identical. And even on the Russel with Sash, it's identical. They just made it a little thicker, but the shape is the same. And Russell's face itself is the same. There's no mouth or anything. So what's actually interesting is that the Doug Days Russell, on his sash, none of the badges are actually extruded out, so it's all completely flat. And the grape soda badge is there, except it doesn't actually say grape soda. You only know that it's the grape soda one because it's the only one that has 2 colors on it. But it does actually appear that they kept the colors consistent. I'd say that this is an improvement to the newer ones because it's extruded outwards. And on this one, he's carrying the binoculars and the remote because that's what he uses when he attaches the colander and activates them so that the animals can talk. The back of Russell here, the back of his head looks to be identical, and his hair actually looks to be identical as well. So basically, his entire head is actually the same in these two, except for the positioning of the eyebrows. And then for his torso, for whatever reason, the colors of the pants, they look to be slightly darker in the Doug Days one. But the shape of everything is the same. And as you can see, his arms are obviously in a very different pose. So comparing him here to Russell with Sash now, again, because the heads are identical, you could just take what I said with the regular Russell and apply that to this as well. On this one, the shoes are actually a lighter brown than they are on the Russell with Sash. It's like they couldn't get the colors of the back of the pants and shoes and sash consistent with any of these 3, it seems. But the positioning of the shoes are actually identical in these 2. It does appear, except for the coloring. So I guess what you could say with Russell is they made 3 Russells in the past couple of years. You have this one from Doug Days that they made a couple of years ago, and then you have these 2 for the 50th anniversary. So I guess what you could say is they did they just kit bashed them. So they took, because it's kind of like they had this Russell from Doug Days, and they wanted to make this Russell from the movies, and they said, well, let's just take components of both of them and throw them onto this one, and then change things up a little bit, because it's like the heads of these 2 are completely identical, and the feet of these 2 are completely identical. But they do look very different, though, so I'm not going to complain about that. I mean, I guess you could say it does come across a little bit cheap or on Funko's part, but I think they did a good job differentiating them. This one is definitely the most different because it really stands out the most because it's the only one without a cap. From a distance, these 2 will look pretty similar, though, I will say. But up close, you could definitely tell the differences, and it is nice to have that. But from a distance, though, you're really going to see the difference. because like you're not gonna be able to see the remote of the binoculars or the chocolate bar from a distance. So up close it's definitely nice, but from a distance, is it really? So as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, there was another Russel that was released many years ago, like a decade ago. I do not have that Russel. I know that seems to be a recurring thread every time I review a Funko where there's something I need to compare it to, but I don't have it, so I'm going to throw a stock photo on the video, but that's happening again. So taking a look at the original Russel from the stock photo, there are quite a few differences. So for one, back in the original Russel, his feet were actually separated, whereas in these, they're visually separated. Like these ones are very close together. Like this on the Russel with Sash, the feet are like literally the same piece. They're connected actually. Like on the outline of his shoes, there's actually a gap where at the bottom of at the bottom corner of each shoe where they meet. On the regular Russel, that's not the case, but they're very close together. At the back of this foot, they're very close together. Whereas the original Russel in the stock photo seems to be there a more visible gap. It does look like on the original Russel that the face was a little bit more rounder, whereas now it's more squarish. And the original Russel did have a baseball cap, but it does look like a different hairstyle than what they're using now. And that the hairstyle may not have also been as detailed. But again, look at the stock photo. It may not be 100% accurate to what I'm saying. To what actually is in person, because I compare it to a stock photo again. So just take that with, so just note that. It does look like there are some other differences that may be for the worse, possibly, depending on what it looks like in person. Like this piece, this badge right here, this square one. It looks like on the original one, they actually had the tree detail in there, and they got rid of that now. And it looks like that the circular part of his tie over here, that used to be like a whole actual separate piece, and that is not there right now anymore. That's just a circle that's part of the tie. And it does look like in the original Russel, there's supposed to be a circular Wilderness Explorer badge on this area, and that's gone too. And that his hands were previously by his side, and they had the moldings for each individual finger, which they still do. This one here, it looks like it might actually be a very similar hand from the stock photo. But again, it's hard to tell how similar they actually are in person. And the original one, just like these, it did not have a mouth. And the eyebrows were a different shape as well. They were flatter and a little bit longer, it looks like. So again, take that comparison with a grain of salt, because I don't have it in person, so potentially some things I'm saying may not be accurate. I'm basing it off an official stock photo on Funko's website, and I will put that in the video for this comparison. So moving on to Carl now, and this part will be long because there's many Carls that I have and they're going to compare them to. I'll start off with Aviator Carl because that doesn't go with the Ellie that was released. So this is definitely a nice Aviator Carl that they made here. It's definitely a nice expression. This one does have a mouth. You can actually feel the individual engravings for the teeth, which is nice, as well as for his eyebrows. I actually wasn't really expecting all the detailing for the eyebrows and mouth in there, and even have textures and engravings on them, which is really nice. It is a nice pose with him reaching out his hand and having his other hand kind of folded in over there. They do have the grape soda pin on his shirt, and you can clearly see that it says grape soda, but you have to lean in close to actually see it say that. There is some nice detailing in his shirt. You can feel the buttons and the tie as well as the belt, so that's nice. The helmet is very detailed. Actually, you could see there's a lot of different the molding encompasses many different textures and shapes into it, which is really nice. You could really kind of feel so it's definitely not flat. There's a lot of there's a lot going on. Like you look, it's pretty clear in the camera as well. You could really feel all the different folds on it. Well, not really folds because it's hard, but they really did a great job building engravings in to kind of emulate what a fold would be. Or over here, you can really feel the different grooves. And then for the Aviator goggles over here, there's like a clear plastic on top as well. Although it's just a solid color beneath, and it doesn't really 100% match up with the rest of it. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if what's underneath is actually just a piece of cardboard or something, or a piece of paper. But the glasses are nice as well. They can't be removed, but there is a plastic clear frame. There is some nice detailing over here with a different coloring for where the shirt is underneath the jacket. On the bottom of the feet, there's text that says copyright Disney. Interestingly, no mention of Pixar, and information about Funko, and this is made in China. And his head here can rotate a full 360 degrees. So before I do comparisons, I'm going to actually compare him to Ellie, because Ellie also has Aviator goggles and helmet. So taking a look here at Ellie, this is definitely a really nice Ellie as well. This is the first time he's done either of them in Aviator goggles. And they definitely made a nice selection for what they're doing for the 15th anniversary. The only thing that I'm surprised by is that they have no Doug. I'm honestly very surprised by that. I feel like this was actually a pretty good time to bring back the Doug and the Cone of Shame. So I'm hoping that they will do a Doug maybe later in the year. Or maybe those missing numbers in between the Russel, Sash, and the others I was mentioning earlier. Maybe there's Doug in there somewhere that just hasn't been announced yet. But, I mean, we're past the film's 15th anniversary now, and like I was saying in the Incredibles review of Edna, that there's a good chance they're doing Incredibles later in the year. Surprised they're not doing Doug, but on the other hand, I'm honestly not that upset either, because they did so many Dougs a couple of years ago for Doug Days. Like, with Doug Days, they did, like, probably 5 different versions of Doug, and then they had one Carl and one Russell. So maybe this time around, making it all Carl, Ellie, and Russell and no Doug is maybe to counteract that, and maybe that's good. Although on the other hand, they've had so many Carl and Ellies the past few years through other means, like retail exclusives and stuff. So now let me stop rambling on and actually discuss Ellie here. So taking a look at Ellie, just like Carl, she is able to rotate her head a full 360 degrees. There is some nice detailing on her Aviator hat as well. Again, they did a great job really molding in different quote-unquote folds and crevices into it. So you can really kind of feel that the texture of the different folds, even though it's harder than what an Aviator helmet probably really is, especially one that looks like it's probably just made out of fabric. But it's definitely really nice attention to detail on both of these Aviator helmets. Actually, it does look like that these are probably like the same type of Aviator helmet, if not the exact same. The color is quite a bit different, but that could be attributed to just that this time, and this one's being worn so many decades later, the color just naturally faded. But the colors, this one is a bit brighter. This one's duller. It's like they do look, it's like the same shapes and everything. And actually this fold here in the center, where it's like kind of like a plus sign, like that actually looks like the exact same. Actually, it looks like when Funko made this, they probably used like the same mold for both helmets actually, because all the folds and crevices, they're like actually completely identical on the two of them. Honestly, I don't blame them for something like that. Like, I don't think it's cheap at all, because yeah, it's the same for both of them, but they did such a good job in it. And honestly, who's gonna notice from a distance? Even up close, it looks so good, and especially with the color difference, you're not gonna notice that's the exact same mold for the two of them. Although in the Ellie one, they actually have the goggles over her eyes as opposed to being lifted up. So you do get to see the details over here as well, which you can't on this one, on Carl's. You do have some nice detailing of Ellie's hair coming out from underneath the helmet up here. And then there is this white thing over here on the sides for like the inside of it. They actually did have that detail on Carl's as well. And Ellie does have some nice detailing on her coveralls, I think that's what it's called as well, with the different patches. It was interesting that the patches, you could actually feel that they're kind of engraved onto it. So you could actually feel it where they are, and you could feel a couple of the folds on the coveralls as well. And Ellie is barefoot; she's not wearing shoes. She does have her hand in a nice expression. What's actually interesting is that they actually use the exact same pose for the hands that are on both Carl and or at least a very similar one. So it's like Ellie's hand, it goes in onto her stomach, whereas Carl's is just on the side. But it's like the same general position, and the hands are like pretty much an identical pose. The only difference being that Ellie's hand is a bit smaller. Nice detailing in the mouth. Again, you could feel the different. You could feel the difference in depth where the mouth is and the teeth coming out. And again, the goggles, they can't be removed. And you could also see some nice detailing with the hair on the back. Whereas Carl, he has no hair on his, except for his eyebrows. And they do have the grape soda pin on Ellie as well. And you can read that it says grape soda, but only from looking really closely. From distance, you're not going to be able to read it. And I will say it's actually much more legible on Carl's than it is on than it is on Ellie's. Of the three, Ellie is by far the least legible for the grape soda text, and Carl is the most legible, although you can read it in all three. So at least, unlike Mattel, as I've said in a couple of my recent reviews on cars, Funko is on their game with decals. So taking a look, last but not least, here at young Carl. So this is the Carl who's in bed after his first meet with Ellie, and he went to the hospital after falling down a story while going for the balloon, or not in the hospital. He has to go to the hospital because of the broken arm. So you could see that that's from the scene when he's in bed reading with the flashlight and with the cast around his arm. So this Carl here, he is able to rotate a full 360 degrees. The flashlight, it does make contact a little bit with his head over in the corner, but it's not a big deal. Doesn't cause any damage or anything. Once again, the glasses are not removable. And they do have some nice detailing over here with the freckles and some pink on the cheek for blush. There is some nice detailing with the hair. It's a nice shade of brown. It's actually a very similar shade of brown to what they use on his Aviator hat. It's slightly different, but it's actually very similar. And it is a nice shade, and it is a nice texturing in the hair as well. You can really feel you can really feel it. They really do. The attention to detail on the hair and the Aviator hats with these Up Funkos is really, really good, I will say. There is some nice detailing on his pajamas. You could see different airplane designs in pink in it. There are some blue squares. I'm assuming maybe those are meant to be clouds, but they're just like squares. And you could feel the buttons, just like Russel's badges. They're built on, so you could actually feel the individual circles. You could also feel where the waist is, where it transitions from shirt to pants. The flashlight is pretty basic. There's no really any texturing on it. It's just a basic white coloring over here and just a standard couple of cylinders to build out the flashlight. It's a pretty simplistic flashlight. But the cast, however, has a lot of details. It's not detailed in like color or anything, but it has many different layers built onto it with the sculpt, so you could feel each individual bandage that's wrapped around it. And overall, this is definitely a really nice Funko, and definitely glad to add these to my collection. So now for the many Carl and Ellie comparisons. So I will start off the comparisons talking with this original Carl. So this is one of the original Carl that they did a long time ago, the same time that Russell, that I don't have, that they did that. So this Carl is quite a bit different than any of these other Carls. He's wearing his suit. He has his cane with the 4 tennis balls. And this is actually just like the Doug Days Russell in that his grape soda pin, you could tell it's the grape soda pin because it's the white with the purple line, but there's no text in it. So the fact that they're adding the grape soda text to all the new ones is really good. And that's definitely a nice improvement that I'm very happy to see. The hair in this original Carl is definitely not textured as much as it is in young Carl. Although this does make sense because young Carl's hair is a lot thicker. The poses are quite different as well. The glasses actually on young Carl and Aviator Carl are pretty similar. They're overall the same shape. However, the frame is much thicker in Aviator Carl than it is on young Carl. And well, I forgot to mention the goggle portion of the glasses, despite being different locations, are the same on Carl and Ellie, but again, they're a different color. Ellie's is more of a grayish black, and Carl's is more of a grayish brown. Compared to the original Carl, the eyebrows on this Aviator Carl are much, they're thicker, and they have much more grooves in it, so you could really feel it. The original one did too, but it's not nearly as much. The belt is a different color on the Aviator Carl. The belt is brown, with the metal part being gray, whereas on the original Carl, it's the same color as the pants, but the metal portion is a shinier gray. They also changed up the color of the shoes and the pants, so the pants now are more of a brownish gray. The original one was just pure gray, and the shirt used to be like a whitish gray. Now it's just pure white. The shoes are pretty much the same shape, but again, the colors now match the respective pants. And the glasses on Aviator Carl and regular Carl are the same shape, but slightly different. The Aviator Carl ones are slightly thicker, it looks like, as well as also a slightly different color. The original Carl, the glasses are a pure black. The Aviator Carl, it's a slightly off black. Moving on to the next Carl for this comparison, this here is Carl with Kevin's babies. So this one they actually just made earlier in the year. I think it was like February or something. So this was actually technically the first 15th anniversary Up Funko to be released this year, although I did not actually do a review of it when it came out. But technically this would be from the same line as these new Funkos, since they came out the same year. And I'm assuming this is probably a situation like Edna, where we're just coming out many months before the rest of the line for whatever reason. So taking a look at this Funko compared at the Carl to Kevin's babies compared to the original to the young Carl, not the original. The hair is equally as textured. So compared to regular Carl, the original one, this hair is definitely way more textured. Like the original one was pretty minimal. This one you could really see all the different details on it. And then the sash, Russell sash he's wearing here, it's similar to the new Russells, where you could feel the individual buttons, or not buttons, the individual badges on them. Although again, they're all just solid colors. There's no grape soda in this one, which is accurate to the movie. Compared here to Aviator Carl, it is the feet look to be the feet are pretty much in the same pose. The pants are in the same color, and the shirt that he's wearing on the one with the Snipes is accurate to what he's wearing underneath the jacket on this one, the Aviator one. Interestingly, the glasses on the one with the Snipes are actually a different model. They're actually smaller. They're not as tall, which is interesting. But the color does look to be the same. And his eyebrows actually aren't as thick on the one with the Snipes either. And on the one with the Snipes, the legs also go up longer, because in the one with the Aviator, it's covered up partially by the jacket. So the next Carl release comparisons will be the Wedding Day Carl. So in this Carl, compared to the young Carl, it actually looks to be the same hairdo, the same hair texturing. However, it is slightly different coloring. This one, it's more of a darker brown. This one's more of a lighter brown, which is interesting. I guess you could say this one is slightly more blonder, but it's still very much a brown. This one is just slightly more maybe grayish. And then the glasses on the Wedding Day Carl are also a different design as well. They're the frames are thicker and they're not as wide. Eyebrows are different as well. Wedding Day Carl doesn't have the freckles. Different pose as well. On Wedding Day Carl, the feet are also look to be spread out a little bit more. So like on these two, the only things that are even really similar are the hair. Like those are identical. The rest is quite a bit different. Comparing him here to Aviator Carl, again, same thing. The glasses are very much different. They're not as wide, which doesn't make sense. People do replace their glasses. Probably most people every couple of years at most. And then these two are quite a bit different as well. On the backs and the torsos, completely different design. Oh, the feet are in a somewhat similar pose, but this one again, it's spread out a little bit more. So for the last individual Carl we'll be comparing them to, here we have the Carl in the flower outfit from Doug Days. So this is in the so this was in the fireworks episode, which I believe they called Flowers. So this was the scene in Doug's dream where he sees Carl wearing the azalea costume. So this Carl is completely different than any other Carl. For one, he looks younger but still grumpy. His hair is completely embodied in some sort of yellow suits, and he's wearing the flower petals around his head. So it's obviously completely different than any other Carl. Again, the glasses are a different design than young Carl here, and they're thicker frames and not as tall. Comparing it to Aviator Carl, it's the suit and pants, they're actually the same on these two. The black bow tie, although on the Aviator Carl is a bigger bow tie than the flower suit Carl. But and the belt, it also isn't as thick. But the white jacket looks to be the same. And the pants color is the same as well. However, the shoes on the flower Carl, they're more similar to the pants color, whereas this one, it's much more differentiated between the two shades. And on this one, and then between these two, the glasses are slightly different as well. This one, the thickness looks to be the same. However, you look over at above the nose where the bridge is, it's a bit of a different shape, whereas this one is more curved. This one is more angular. So the rest of the Carl Funko comparisons I'll be doing are actually not individual Carls. They're like attached to bases that you can't be separated from. So those comparisons might be a little bit more challenging. But to start here, we have the zoo worker Carl and Ellie's. So this is when Carl's a balloon salesman at the zoo, and Ellie's one of the zookeepers. Comparing him here to young Carl, the hairdo is a bit different this time. So taking a look at it, it is a different hairdo, but again, the attention to detail is really, really good. The back of the hair, though, looks a bit more similar, but not nearly as obvious as the front. It is still different. It's just less noticeable than compared to the front. Again, the glasses are a different model. These glasses are thicker. Comparing the clothing to Aviator Carl, again, glasses are completely different, as usual with these. And then the clothing is quite a bit different too, as well. Obviously he's younger here, so what he wears is going to be a bit different too, obviously. But it's pretty different. Obviously, the tie is very different. He's not wearing a jacket on the balloon salesman. His pants are a darker color. So moving on to the next one of these connected ones. This one is more of a younger Carl again. This is where he and Ellie are sitting in their chairs when they're young. So compared here to young Carl, the new Funko. Well, this young Carl is actually a kid Carl. This is a young adult Carl. Although they're actually at the same height. I mean, even these two Funkos, they're like this is supposed to be probably 8 years old. This one's 70-something years old, and 72, I think it was in the movie, and they're the same height as Funko. So, not accurate to the movie, but I mean, Funko has their way of doing things, and I do really like Funko style, so it doesn't bother me. What if these are action figures though? But since they're Funkos, it's fine with me, because Funko just does things so differently than other toy companies. The way I think is, if Funko's consistent with themselves, that's what matters. And like Funko definitely is consistent with these Carls, no matter what the age is, so it's fine with me. So going back into this Carl, comparing the two young ones, the hairdo is quite a bit different again. Actually, the back of the hair, it actually looks like the back of these two hairs are actually identical. It looks like these two actually share identical hairdos, which is interesting. So these two Carls, they actually have identical hairdos, it looks like, although slightly different colors. Again, this one is just a tiny drop more lighter, but very, very similar. The other one that I mentioned before, but different colors. This one's even less of a difference in those two. And again, the glasses, they are a different model. And this Carl, there's not even really anything to compare him what he's wearing with the Aviator Carl. Again, different glasses model, everything. And these two cars are so different you can't even really compare. However, since we do have Ellie here, comparing Ellie, and Ellie's also quite a bit different. These cars, they actually don't have mouths. This one does. But the way she's dressed, the way she's posed, it's completely different. Like, again, you can't really compare. The helmet colors, they are slightly different, but pretty similar. This one's brighter, but they actually are a relatively similar shade. And since I completely forgot to compare these Ellies, the Zookeeper one, again, they are just so drastically different that you can't compare. It's like there's like no similarities at all between these two Ellies, but I mean that's just like it is in the movie. Like how Ellie is a kid, you can't compare it to how she is a young adult or how she's when she's middle-aged or elderly. And these Funkos, they do a great job, and you can't even compare this kid Ellie to any of the other Ellies that they made. So the last comparison, the last comparison that pertains to Carl I'll be making here is to basically this same one, but when they're older. I'm not going to be comparing these two in the video, but basically these two are more or less the same Funkos, but this one's when they're younger, this one's when they're older. So this time, starting off in comparison to Aviator Carl, the glasses, again, it looks to be a slightly different model. So like where the bridge is above the nose, you can see that is a different shape again, but they're otherwise pretty similar. And in terms of what he's wearing, the pants in this one, they are more of a brown or a light brown, or like a kind of like a light grayish brown. This is more of a darker grayish brown. The belt colors are a bit different. This belt is the same color as his jacket, whereas this one, Aviator Carl, is more noticeably different color. His shirt is the same color up here as a pure white. Definitely really nice to have these comparisons again. Comparing the two Ellies in here, I mean, again, just like I said with the other ones, you can't really compare these. You're different in like every possible way. Like you can't even recognize these two are actually the same character really, but again, that's just like it is in the movie. So the very last Ellie that we'll be comparing here to, actually this will be the last comparison of the review, is Wedding Day Ellie. So this is the only one of those Carl and Ellie 2-packs that they've made that are different, which they're actually not attached to the same base. So I guess these young ones are kind of like the same thing in that they're not attached to the base this time. And again, you just can't even really compare these two characters at all because they are different every possible way. Hair color is a bit different. This is more of a reddish brown. This is more of a grayish brown. Again, these Funkos, they're just so cool. And how they differentiate every single Carl and Ellie from each other is just really good. Like, every single Carl and Ellie that they've ever made, they look completely different from each other. Whereas, like I was saying with the Russels, you compare the new regular Russel they made with the Dug Days Russel, and hard to tell what the difference between them is from a distance, but close up you can. But Carl and Ellie, it's just from a distance, they're so obviously very different characters, very different Funkos. But nonetheless, I'm really glad to have this Up 15th Anniversary Funko collection. And let me know in the comment section below what you think of all these Funkos, which one is your favorite. And there actually was another Up Funko that they made of them at the mailbox. I don't have that one. I'm not going to bother doing comparison to that one since I did so many. But nonetheless, let me know in the comment section what you think of all these Funkos. And make sure to like and subscribe. I'll see you soon for another review. And bye now.